Okay, so the world hasn't ended, and we're in 2022, and it's the first Sunday, which means it's the first Sunday supplement live. There isn't an elephant in the room. He's not here today. He has far better things to be doing. So Mr. Lawrence is celebrating the birthday of one of his children, and family comes first. He'll be sorely missed, but he will obviously find a way to infiltrate the comments in some way, shape, and form, and take up some part of his 84.6% of his standard allocation. So it being the beginning of the year, as arbitrary as it is these days, I think I read that in Mr. Lawrence's post this morning, it is a brand new year. It's a brand new day. So we're going to be doing what most people are doing out loud and sharing it with you. Is we're going to be talking about our goals. We're going to be talking about what we're going to be doing differently, what strategies we're going to employ, what the environment's going to look like, or how quickly or how easily we're going to try and adapt to those things. So no need for introductions, really. We've got the magnificent Ross Harper, we've got the effervescent Helen Chorley, and we've got the very Polish Piotr Rusinek alongside me, a bit of a mouthpiece. So to kick things off, in our private little chat, we've got a WhatsApp chat for this thing that we do on Sundays. And we were talking about what are we going to talk about for the first talk, or the first little meeting in 2022, and it very easily and under Ross's suggestion came across to not New Year's resolutions, but what are the goals for this year? What are people setting up to do? And I'd let loose that myself and Piotr between Christmas and New Year had a bit of an internal kind of, what does our business look like? How did we do last year? How are we looking to grow into next year? What things are we going to do differently? Blah, blah, blah. We both wanted to commit suicide about 7 minutes into the chat, but we managed to survive almost 2 hours. And it was pretty helpful. It was useful. And we got pretty much all the way to the end of all of the different projects that we're doing, the different businesses that we run, the different focuses that we have. And at the very bottom of the list was what are Jay's goals and ambitions for 2022, and what's Piotr's goals and ambitions for 2022? And we both sat there looking at each other in complete silence for about 10 minutes. So you can tell where our focus is, like, how is the business going to work? All these different things, how are we going to make things work in what's likely to be a challenging and changing environment, as is every year in its own way. So it kind of brought into the question, like, what are people thinking of doing this next year, or this current year even? We're well into it now, good 48 hours in. Ross, Helen, what's the forecast for you guys this year?
Do you want to go first, Helen?
No.
Well,
go for it, Helen.
I'm still working on mine. Let's put it that way. It's a work in progress. The one thing I have decided, which I really let slip last year, is, and I did really well at it in 2019. No, I didn't. That's not true at all. Anyway, one of my things that I try to do is have like me Mondays, because I end up working kind of most Sundays, and I end up working most days. I have me Mondays. So me, like, there's no meetings, there's no phone calls, there's no Zooms, there's no nothing. And that just totally slid last year. So my one thing is me Mondays. So please, no WhatsApp,
No calls.
no nothing on Mondays. Anybody, that's everybody. Nothing. Unless you're inviting me out for a drink, coffee, beach, shandy, whatever. That's totally fine.
Okay.
So that's about as far as I've got.
And have you written this goal down somewhere?
Yeah, I just wrote it down on our pre-chat notes. Look,
nice one.
2 things on it.
So for you, Helen, there will be Sunday specials and Monday specials.
Yes.
And I think what this is with the goals as well. It's like the new year. It's like it's a natural place where everyone sets the goals, but like we go about setting the goals for like pretty much every quarter, because it works really well. It lets us review what we said before. And we had a funny situation where, like, this year we kind of planned to do a few things, and then Jay is saying, well, we're doing like 4 of those events. I'm like, 4 of those events? No way we're doing 4 of those events. And Jay's like, you said that. I was like, I didn't. But actually, we're setting the goals a few months ago, and like I said something that Jay was right about, and I'm like, wow, if we didn't write it down, like we'd have a proper argument. But
I
actually,
liked that
writing down
little-
those goals.
The little thing you put, I saw it on Insta, like your end of year summary, and like the 2 things at the bottom, number of times Jay was right and number of times Piotr was right. There was a bit of an
That's right.
imbalance there.
But you know what? If anyone's good at their math, Helen, and I hope you would be, if you look at the middle box at the bottom and you added those onto my figures, then it's equal. It's 100% equal.
Sometimes there are situations that actually, Jay argues that, but I don't think that's true. That Jay says something, and then 3 months later, I disagree with it, and then 3 months later, I say something. I say how brilliant of an idea it is, and Jay says, "Oh, I said it 3 months ago," but that becomes my idea. So
You are a true man. That makes Jay actually a woman, I think.
You know what? You know what? Maybe I took the honorary property sister engagement too seriously, but you know, I really took that one to heart. But no, the reality of the situation is that, you know what? Sometimes Piotr just needs a little bit of convincing, and he kind of takes the ideas on. He dismisses it instantly, but he takes it on and he just lets it filter through like sedimentary rock. It filters through. It comes out the other end. He goes, you know what? That's a brilliant idea. You know what? I thought of that. I kind of feel like I'm in this toxic gaslighting relationship.
Or,
Well,
I totally disagree with what you say.
or you're a master manipulator.
Exactly. I think that's no, but it's like I think writing things down regularly is really important, and with that, like we set the goals for like the new year. Or we set them like in the next quarter, stuff like that, like constantly writing them down and comparing what we said before. It's quite magical. I think that's the most important thing. It's not always about achieving those goals, because we like keep setting goals for like 2 or 3 years, and some of them we just totally miss. But then out of us setting those goals and taking actions on those goals, there would be things that come up that are just totally unexpected, that we wouldn't have planned if we didn't take actions on the goals that we set, that we didn't achieve, but we achieved something totally different, which sometimes is so much better. So I think for me, that's what's important about setting the goals and creating those. And for us, when we set the goals, they're all quite related, like because like we run a few businesses now. The main one obviously is Hammered. When we help people sell properties in auctions. We do our own auction trading stuff. We have an auction buyers club. We run some workshops. We like got this Hammered Leads platform, and all of those things are quite related, as in like if we do something on one thing, it kind of means we're also working on something else or something that will help other business work. And I think that's what makes the goal setting much easier for us.
And so
the other thing,
sorry.
the other thing I was like thinking, and it's a little bit naff, I did see it on like some meme on Instagram, and it was the middle of last year, but it keeps coming back to me, is do something that you will thank yourself for in 6 months' time. And I keep thinking about the things that I did, that all like the little small increments. So Danny Inman had done a post on Atomic Habits again, and we had a chat about that, like doing something small and repeated, and the power of doing that over time. And there's certainly things as I got to the end of the year, I'm like, oh my God, I'm really glad I started doing that then, and seeing all these things add up, and that keeps coming back to me. So that's going to be a theme for me. So I've not got any bigger than that yet. But check in with me in 6 months.
No, definitely. I'm a big fan of Atomic Habits, and for myself, I also downloaded this app and signed up for the Noom. For it's like for kind of keeping track of like health and fitness, and putting simple little things in place daily. And sticking to them to kind of gain results and to maintain them, because it's all about habits. That's why I think. That's why I think like I'm just so against like completely new businesses, completely new things. Or like now I kind of live most of the time in Lisbon, and people asking me, "Are you doing properties in Portugal?" I'm like, no, because I have no idea about this, and it's like it would
Same for
take me
me in
so
Malta.
long.
Yeah,
Yeah, it would take me so long to understand it and so long to
exactly.
build relationships. And it's
Yeah,
like maybe at some point, like I'll get into this, but at this point, it's like so
yeah,
much more
not
beneficial
yet.
to focus on things we're doing well.
Yeah.
Um, so what about you guys? Like, because Ross, you're quite a master of like changing strategy, adapting to things,
So
and
yeah, so I'm probably living through some of the bigger changes from last year's goal
Yeah.
setting. So one of my goals was not to be UK based, which we've managed to get to and get sorted. I use this time of year because my businesses are set and structured. It doesn't really make a big difference at this time. You're not changing direction with the businesses. But what I've used these times for generally has been to get some just time and thought around what I'm doing, what my involvement is, where I'm spending my time, where I'm going, what I'm doing. And this year it's worked out really well because we did make changes. We now spend half our time in Dubai, or we will be spending half our time in Dubai. And it's given me a chance to do other things, other types of businesses, and get involved in that. So this year, it's the same idea. You're just looking at where you're spending your time, what the value is. I think portfolio building's probably come back on my radar last year a wee bit. I've kept quite a lot of houses as opposed to selling them, trying to get that grown. And our care home business has grown quite significantly throughout the course of the year. And that was a goal from 2015, was to set up a business that was property related, but wasn't actually a property business. It was a venture that was out with property because as a child of 2008, I wanted something that would be secure if the
Yeah.
property market crashed or something 2008 style happened again. And I'm still talking, it's 2022 and I'm still talking about 2008. It's so bizarre. Um,
Mhm.
but that 2015 like change at this time of year when I sat and thought about it led to me setting up a charity, and that charity was for helping, if you remember, helping sports people out of professional sports and into that. And then from that, and this is exactly what you were talking about, Piotr, there, about following plans. I didn't understand how to get outside of property. I don't understand business well enough to go and buy a business, or
No, I think.
setting up that charity, that gave us lots of insight into doing other things, and then helping one of the Scottish football clubs with their youth teams made us realise we could have a much bigger impact on young people than some of the older people that we were dealing with. And then that directly led into setting up a care home for children, and then that's led on to all these different things. But I just think your ability to change at this time of year, everything that you do is, it's really, really powerful. It's not necessarily big things, it's not life changing things, but I quite like the start with the end in mind, see what you want to have, and then backfill the
Yeah.
process all the way down. I'd love to say I've had other great ideas over the last few days, but I'd need to stay out the pub, I think.
See, I think you hear stuff like this a lot. With the tautology you used at the very end there, Ross, which was, like you start at the end and you kind of like you work your way backwards, which is very much like a GDV kind of calculation on your life almost, right?
Yeah.
But there's normally, this is one of the things I love about being around Piotr, being in business with Piotr, is I'm very much the end destination kind of person. I'm the kind of bird's eye, like looking down on the earth from a satellite kind of thing. And Piotr is always like, okay, that's the end, but what's the next step? Can you see the next step? I can't normally see the next step, but Piotr is the next step guy, where he's normally the next 2 or 3 steps to get us kind of moving to what that end goal is. And I'm like,
you're creative. This is where I go on, and I don't know I harp on about a lot, but where I go on about understanding people's kind of wealth dynamics style. It's not to put people in boxes. It's to understand why you do what you do, and you do it so well. And then Piotr's trader type like me, and we're like, this is great. We buy into this. Like, whoa, this is amazing. But what's next? How do we implement this? Yeah, love it. Sorry, I interrupted your flow.
No, just because obviously there was an agreement in there, so you're more than welcome to interrupt if you agree. But no, it was just it was mentioning that because I find it very easy to do a GDV. Like I can go there and I can work all the way back, and I can take not like cost, but like effect, like cause and effect into consideration, like what we're planning on doing and how we're going to get there. And I can somewhat create a bit of a roadmap to it, but actually deciding on what is the very next step, or what are the parts that are needed along the way to kind of facilitate that. Okay, so here's your standard kind of build cost. Okay, well great. Well, how do I start that? Piotr is like this is what we do, this is where we go, this is how, and that is really cool.
Yeah.
That's a cool name as well. What the next step guy?
Yeah.
That's a cool next step.
Great comment from Dominic. Say like Icarus.
You know what? Here's the thing. It took me 8 weeks to write that fucking post. Right? I kept getting waylaid. You have no idea. This post has annoyed the shit out of me. And apologies for the language. I put a lot into that post because, like, once a year I do a post which kind of draws a bit of ancient mythology together, a little bit of like mindset-y stuff, a little bit like prepping things for the future. And like literally there's been one comment and about 6 likes. It's like the worst performing post of the entire year. And I keep saying to my wife, I'm going to delete the fucking post. She goes, no, you put so much work into it. I said, no one gets it. Like it's sitting there, and every time I look at it, it annoys the shit out of me. So I want to delete the post.
I don't think I've seen that, but I will certainly go and check it out now. But I had exactly the same. My favorite post that I wrote out of like all the articles I did for Pin, all the posts and everything I did one like longer article, kind of article on LinkedIn called, it was honestly, I think it was a work of genius, and how it's been, not hardly looked at. I do not know. Called The Caterpillar and the Flip-Flop. I didn't even just see the name is even as brilliant. But no, it's had like, so something, I don't know. I took a picture of me on, I don't know, like some fancy dress that got 12,000 views. This were like work of genius depth. I started writing it in Bermuda in about 5 years ago. This thing has been real like work, heartfelt work thing. I think it's got like 10 likes.
Heartbreaking.
Do you think it could be the name?
It's a great thing.
Understand it.
If I saw a post like that, I would not understand it immediately and go, I've got to read it. Like it's not clickbaity. It should draw.
That's the thing, Jay. It's like exactly the movie on Netflix right now. Don't Look Up. It's like Don't Look Up Jay's post. Try to explain. No one understands it. It will take you 2 years.
Yeah, well, look, at least Dominic read it. Thank you, Dominic. I appreciate that.
Well, that's good. By next week, you'll get a few more likes because we'll all now go and look at it. It'll become your best performing post now.
No, and I have to say, like, we're so glad we're now also on Property Sisters YouTube channel, because there's so much interaction from Property Sisters, especially when I will love when they say that you love my points. We'll definitely be continuing that.
Okay. Thanks for joining us.
There's a lot of good comments from Kate and about not ticking off the goals, and also from Sarah. It's
our little sister. Welcome.
Yeah, and there's a lot from Sarah. She says she's got a question. She says she's getting overwhelmed with focusing on too many things at once, like property, health goals, family goals, housework. What do you guys say to this?
I'm going to jump in there because I've really been struggling with that as well, and I'm probably not the only one on the call because we've all got stuff like that. But what I've started to do, and I found it helpful only for a very short period of time, literally the last 72 hours. Is literally I've been looking at what the work goals are and what those things are, and then I've been looking at the family and the health goals, and I've been looking into actually which ones impact the other positively? If I focus on this goal, what is the positive effect on this part? Like, so I'm starting with the domino effect. So I've started literally all of the health goals that I'm focusing on and I'm thinking about. Those are going to positively impact the time with my family, because I'm going to have more energy. I'm going to want to go and do more stuff. I'll be more engaging, all of those kind of things. And then I'll be focusing on, and how does that benefit the business? Well, if things are good at home, if the family are happy and I've got energy, that's going to impact my mental energy and my state to kind of come up with things or interact with things or make the most out of situations. So I'm not treating them as separately. I'm treating them as like, well, if this is taken care of, then it makes this easier. And if this is easier, then I'm going to have so much more focus and energy for this one. And like I said, I'm very, very early on that kind of thought process journey, but it's made such a big difference than the way I've been thinking about things, especially goal setting the last 3 or 4 years. I feel so much more comfortable with it, knowing that actually they're all connected, but you just, and that's been helpful for me.
Biggest bang for your buck. I like that, Jay.
Clever. Absolutely. I've been delegating some of my goal setting. So, like I do with most things in my life, I find somebody else who's better than me to do it. So for some of the family stuff and some of the things that I wanted to get my time back, I've gone to Lisa and said, look, this is what I want to do, or how you want to do it. Can you figure it out? And, get her to help me. So she's basically doing my job for me, as usual. Or if it's work stuff, I might go to Mandy and we'll do the same thing. We'll sit and I'll say, this is where we need to be. Can you go and do this? Or Raymond, or other people in my life that I can trust. And most of these people are better at things than I am. So ultimately, what comes back, I know it's not me personally that's thought it up. That's not as important. It's generally people who are in a better position to say, right, if we do this, we can do this. And I found that's a lot easier, and it frees up a lot more of my time as well. I think the biggest thing, and going back to, sorry, I can't remember the poster's name, but the point about all these different goals and challenges and things, this year is all about simplification. I've got 26 companies, I've got hundreds of houses, I've got buildings in various states of repair. I've got companies in different countries now. You've got all these different things going on, lots of properties lying empty, derelict, being built, that kind of stuff, developments, new house builder. So there's loads and loads and loads of things there. And my big thing this year was simplify it all into, and this didn't take place this week because we've built a website. I've got an area where we know what 6 things we're going to focus on with the businesses this year. We've rebranded. We're bringing stuff offshore next year. But there's a few things going on. But I've just tried to make it so that it's really, really simple so I can understand it. And then if it's really simple and I understand it, it then becomes much easier for other people to kind of see what direction you're going and try and get everybody on board. The hardest thing I've found with changing goals in the past is I haven't communicated it well to everybody else. So I set the goal, I change direction, I change the path, I change everything that I want to do. I no longer want to do this, I want to do that. But I've not been very good coming back in January because everybody's head down, get back to work. If it's that, I've not been very good at communicating that back the way. So I wanted a clear plan of, if we're doing this, everybody's in the same boat or in the same bus and we're all going in the right direction.
Yeah, and that's what's so great about,
Go on, Piotr.
Yeah, it's just one comment to say that it's great about setting the goals with other people, because then it's like everyone knows where everyone is heading, and it's also more likely you probably stick to the goals because someone else knows about it as well, right? Because for me, it's like if I set my own goals, it will take me 5 years to get them, to achieve them. But if I know that other people know about my goals, then I'll be more likely to actually not do stupid things that would jeopardize those goals and actually stick to them. So it's I think it's good. But sorry, Helen, I
was just going to say something I think Ross is really good at, and it's anecdotal, but I've seen it in people like business people. I don't really consider myself that, because actually I'm really bad at this, but can improve. But people who are juggling lots of them, both delegation, and I'm really bad. Like my VA, will struggle with something, and I'll go, oh fine, I'll just do it. And it's like it's the one thing they tell you not to do, but I'm just like, it's just easier if I do it. And I do too much and I don't leverage my time enough. And it would be so much better if anybody knows a course on delegation, if anybody's got any delegation tips, let me know. But going back to Sarah,
it's really easy. Just find somebody else and get them to do it.
Maybe it's like a trust issue. I'm just like, maybe it's an ego thing. Maybe I think I can do. Well, no, because I know I can't do half of this stuff well. I don't know. Anyway,
is it trust? Is it ego? Is it control?
Control, probably.
Control. Yeah. I thought it was the one bit that you left out, and I thought, oh, we'll just call you out on that bit a little bit, Helen.
Is that you being chastised for the first time in 2022, Helen?
Yeah, that doesn't take long, does it?
And it was Jay?
I'm just going to have to cry now. But changing the subject swiftly, back to Sarah's question. I think something that has helped me a lot is actually working through, and I think people are, I don't know, I don't see it as, I'm trying to say, I think this is an area people can improve on, is actually working out really what's important to them. So I did it right through, and there's loads of different ways you can do it. I think Tony Robbins has got something. I did the DeMartini kind of way of doing it, but there's loads of different ways of actually working out what your values are. And it has to be what's important to you, not what you think you should be doing or what's important to society or important to your family or what other people think. What is genuinely important to you? And then if you prioritize your goals and your stuff around that, that's what gives most satisfaction. That's what you're going to stick to most, because they are, they are intrinsic. They are yours. They're not, well, so-and-so is doing this and therefore I should be doing this. You're not going to stick to that because that's not yours. It's not what matters to you. So getting clarity on that, I really think helps.
That's the authenticity, right? Isn't it? It's nice to say that you have, I've got morals and I've got ideals and I've got values and blah, 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 blah. But if there's no congruency with those values and your actions and your words, then there's no authenticity. And that's where a lot of people fall down. They take buzzwords, or they take, I'm trustworthy. Well, what does that mean? I feed the poor. Okay, well, all of those things are good, but do your actions follow it? Do your words follow it?
Yeah.
And that's the part where I think a lot of people trip up. It's actually quite easy to say, oh, I'm this, or oh, I'm that. I remember I was at a property networking event. This was a couple of years ago. It was a really nice hotel, like a Country Manor hotel, and I was unsurprisingly one of the last people behind at the bar, and there were about 4 or 5 people there, the host, the co-host, and 3 or 4 like attendees, and there was a relatively young chap there, and he was talking. He was just like talking. He was being like completely inoffensive, really good chat, and just kept saying, oh, as a developer, blah 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 blah. And it's like he mentioned he was a developer. It must have been about 6 times in one sentence. And I kind of thought, this is a little bit ridiculous. So it's kind of like, thou dost protest too much, I was like, okay, brilliant. Like, what's your current development project? And he went quiet. And it was the first time he'd gone quiet, like, pretty much that day. I was like, okay, well, if you haven't got anything on at the moment, like, well, let me see pictures of your last development. Like, most developers are quite proud. Like, once they finish the development, they're like, well, it's 18 flats or 7 houses, and there's an eco thing to it, or there's a special design thing that makes people want to live there, or whatever it is. Not really on an ego trip, but once you create something, if you're like a developer, you're creating things for people to live in, you take pride in that, right? So you're quite happy to show it off. And he didn't say much. And I was like, okay, well, I make a big point of saying I'm not a developer. Not that I don't want to be. It's not like a club that you don't wish to aspire to or anything like that. But I really don't have the skill set to be a developer. So I make it exceedingly very clear. Like, you want a developer, you need to be speaking to any other human being on the face of the earth. And it turned out, and me and Piotr, it turned out that basically his development experience was he had bought his parents' home so they could retire, and he did a loft extension and put on a conservatory, and that's his development experience. And then it made me think, I don't know why I've gone on such a bloody tangent, but I do that a lot. It made me think like, when people say, "Oh, I'm this," and that's it. We're on authenticity.
Yes.
When I think this, or when people say, "Oh, I'm this" or "I'm that," like, what is the bar that you have to get above to call yourself a developer? Because if that's the case, like in our last flat, I removed a wall and made an open plan kitchen reception. Am I now a developer? I don't want to be, but is that it? I've moved
Yeah.
the wall. I've put a window in.
You can now do a sales training course on developments. That's really good. You could you can get a wee picture of yourself and become a shark.
When we put the ClickFunnels page together, we'll put endorsed by Ross Harper Industries. But no, you get what I mean. Like,
yeah, that authenticity thing, I think, for us as a group, brings us back to the whole property education thing and the fake it till you make it. And this is where the lack of congruence in what people have been told. It's okay to say you are something until you become it, until you become good at it, because then it's easier to raise money if you say you've done lots of things you haven't done. But for people who are older in the industry, you do tend to see right through it. Following on from that developer chat, there's a property educator, again, I won't name names, who's selling courses and trying to get people into his funnel for property development courses. And I can categorically state he has never built anything in his entire life. Nothing. Not converted. It's just not right. And I'm not saying that he couldn't own a company that has a developer, and there's lots of good developers do it, talking for him, but that's not how they're doing it. It's him that's showing you the pitfalls and the problems, but never having run a development site, has no idea. Very strange. But then that becomes quite hard, I think, when you're goal setting. If you're not, coming away from property education, you want to it's how you achieve these things. If you want to become a developer, you have to go and look at, well, how am I going to learn how to do it? Can I sit and watch somebody else who's done it before? There are some reasonable courses that you can go and do where you can learn things and you can find out how to do it. But your goal just now isn't, your goal is, I'm going to learn to become a property developer. You're taking your first step into, this is the next stage to being a developer. But it's amazing how many people go on a course and change their LinkedIn profiles to developer. On the Friday, they go in, they're a plumber, and then on the Monday, they're a developer. It's absolutely incredible. I find it fascinating.
Yeah, that for me that's the difficult part, because you go, less so now and especially last year and a bit, is that you go into a networking room and someone would say, introduce themselves. Hi, I'm Paul Smith, as a random generic name, I do X, Y, and Z. And the reality is you have no idea. They've got a lovely printed card or a website. And the assumption is, until the assumption is proven incorrectly, that this person does do CGI walkthroughs of developments or whatever it is that, they've said that they do. And it's difficult to transverse, because unless you, and I didn't plan on calling that person out on that chat. It's just that they were making such a big fuss about being a developer. I thought, well, let's see what they've done, like what work, and nothing. And I was in shock, and I thought, did I put someone on the? But it was, yeah.
But I think it's important, like, to actually call yourself something, and then like, even if you call yourself a developer, let's say I call myself a developer, and I have not done a development yet, but now I'm taking action of a developer. I'm looking for a site, and I'm getting my team together for the building team and stuff. So I'd say I am a developer because I'm taking action with the developer, but there's no point lying about things that basically to make yourself look like a developer. It's like you should just be taking the actions of a developer, and then be upfront with people. I haven't done a development yet, but I'm in the process of making this happen or that happen, and that actually is truthful, and it's then it will get you somewhere, because like you do have to change from, like, if you're a plumber, like, and if you want to find your site, it's more difficult to find a site if you're, like, call yourself a plumber. But if you start calling yourself a developer, then you're probably gonna start finding the sites and stuff like this. But you need to be able to, like, back up what you're saying either by actions or by experience, or like things like that. So I think that creating things with your words is important. but also just staying factual is equally as important, and not getting into this spiral of lying, because if you lie once about something, then you're gonna continue lying until like money is lost, and basically there's no other way of just escaping to a I don't know, somewhere.
Developer in training.
It could be, yeah, aspiring developer.
Did
Aspiring
you put a Ready L sign on your LinkedIn? You put a Ready L sign on your LinkedIn profile?
Learner's permit. Yeah.
I do wonder though if, like, you know, I'm really, as you all know, like really into personal development, but it's something that I struggle with a lot. I wonder if like personal development stuff trips us up a little bit on this, because a lot of it says like, you know, imagine what you want to be, and, you know, set your direction, set your intention, and be positive, and start, you know, imagining that future and who you're going to be. So maybe they're falling into that trap of going, well, I'm a developer, and if I say it enough, then I will become it. But then I think about this a lot. I'm like, you know, we all know I'm still single, fail of last year. Like, do I start calling myself a wife? I started to think of that. Like, maybe I should tell people, no, I'm not single, or, you know, like I'm in a relationship. I'm not, but that's where I want to be. But then we come back to that is an untruth.
Maybe you should just go on Match.com or something.
Yeah, maybe on your Tinder profile, Helen, just put "made from 100% wifey material," and then just create the opportunity.
And maybe next week we're gonna also stream to Tinder live. So.
Oh no, that'll put them all on.
Yeah, me, Ross, and Adam will be your wingmen.
Oh, nice one. Yeah, I think that is like it's like a kind of chicken and egg situation, but I think you can be factual.
There are ways around that, right? You could take yourself off one morning, print out 1,000,001 CVs, and you could go onto Companies House and look at directors in your area or businesses that do developments or property companies in your area, and go hand in a CV and go, look, I'm just looking for 2 weeks work experience.
Do you know that's how I got into property? It's
Yeah.
exactly like I just came from university went to London, and I met someone on a meditation retreat. But on my way to London, like my plan was, I go to companies, I literally hand my CVs and speak to people, and that's why I was planning to get a job in a smaller company rather than in a big corporation or something like this, because I knew that I wanted to learn things from people who are doing stuff. So it's that kind of stuff, like searching for people who you can like add value to somehow, like, and just kind of like seeing things, being immersed in the environment is so important.
Yeah, and I think it goes beyond that. You know, you don't have to go, oh, I'm going on this course now. I'm this person. Do 2 weeks experience at a builder's yard.
Yeah.
Tick. Then go from a builder's yard, do 2 week experience following, you know, a chippy around, or a plumber, or an eleckie. You know, getting practical experience. Okay, well, why did you do that? Why does that happen first? What then happens after we do this? Ask the stupid questions that are going to give you the practical knowledge and experience to go, right, if you are walking a site or you're project managing your own development, you can go, no, that's the wrong way around. Do that first and do that. And that's why we do that. All of a sudden, you know, and then maybe go do a course like a Paul Higgsy type of thing, or not endorsing, but anything like that happens like Paul, but like, or do anything like that. Or, you know, knock on a property company's door and say, look, I'll go and do viewings for you for like 2 weeks. Like I'll be the bitch person in the office that makes the coffees, you know, picks the post up from the letterbox, goes and does the viewings, you know, does all the shit bits, but you're involved, you're immersed, right? And I think the practical applications of that are immense. You know, I've done a couple of degrees, and degrees are nice. You know, it's a bit of paper. You get a couple of letters after your name. Not that I bother to do that anymore. But actually, I spent a large portion of my life. I worked in estate agents for like 18 months-ish, almost 2 years. I worked with an investment agent. I worked with a private family office. I worked with an auction company for 6 years. All of that stuff is practical application. I was trading properties for years, but I couldn't say I knew enough to start like a training thing on it. But working within an auction company, getting to see behind no closed doors and what the actual practicalities of it are from a buyer and seller perspective is immense. In the same way that I think if you're going to be a developer, if you haven't hung around or you don't ask questions as a beginner, or you're not, the practical stuff. If someone says, "Oh, I'm a developer or aspiring developer," okay, what are you doing? How is your aspiration getting you there? If they say, "Oh, I just put aspiring developer on my LinkedIn to get, to be associated as one," well, it's bollocks, isn't it? There's no congruency there. There's no authenticity behind it. But if they're like, "Well, actually, 8 weeks ago, I worked with this guy for 2 weeks, free," or they just bought me lunch, or they paid my travel costs, whatever situation you're creating, actually people can then go, okay, this guy is grinding to get to where he wants to be. And he's like, whether it doesn't matter if you are at the very bottom. Okay, maybe you don't want to work at Travis Perkins for 2 weeks figuring out what the difference between a 2x4 is and a 6x4 is, or where you would put that in a low capacity in a certain part of a building or not. I don't know if you learn that there. But I imagine those things are important, right? Well, I imagine it's probably my ignorance that thinks it's important. But if you start off as ignorant as possible, asking as many stupid questions as possible, you start weeding out the ignorant elements of you, and you can start asking more intelligible questions.
Yeah, that's why, like, when we do, when we're running workshops and stuff, like, we call them workshops because it's like focus on practical things of actually doing stuff on what's life and how we would approach certain things. And sometimes, like, we don't say to people, like, gonna make you millionaires and stuff. We just say, like, we're gonna show you how we do things, and basically how and that's what we promise. And then there's actions to be taken, and then there's things to be done in real life that you're going to be basically discovering a lot of different things that we haven't covered. But it's all about that kind of work experience, and applying things, skills, and putting them in action.
I think also you've got no. I think it's quite hard to be totally honest with those things when you're at the outset of that journey. So we're really talking around if somebody wants to turn into a developer this year, for example, and that's going towards their goal. But I also think it's quite cool because social media is quite engineered in lots of different ways. You see what people are doing, you think it must be easier. Property education courses tell you it's easy to do. It's actually not. Most of the stuff's not that easy to do in these types of things. I don't want Helen to go on a rant, but it's not the easiest. There's lots of pitfalls, there's lots of downside to it. But I've got a situation where one of my key people that works for me now, I witnessed it, and my point is I witnessed him, what he was doing. He was with an educator at one point, and he was the front man for that, but he seemed like a nice guy, and he had a bit of a backstory to it, but I never got involved with him, didn't speak to him. It's not my, I wouldn't get involved with that type of business. And it was when he left there and I saw the next things. So you can see he was trying to do stuff and trying to make things happen. And off the back of that, I phoned him. I was actually out here on holiday, and I WhatsApped him from Dubai and said, look, if you're no longer with that educator, do you fancy going for a coffee? And off the back of that, because I watched what he'd actually done and his manner and how he came across, and I'm thinking I could do stuff with him. And now out of that, he's a business partner. He runs some of my businesses for me. The whole, so you can't deny that putting yourself out there, even the putting yourself out there of doing those menial tasks that you're talking, I would love to see somebody saying, so I want to be a developer and this is what I want to do, so this is what I've done. If somebody said that they'd gone to Travis Perkins and they'd gone and worked in a surveyor's for 2 weeks, and I always say to people, go and chat the doors at the estate agents and go and listen to how they talk. Even sitting there for 2 weeks, you will learn what goes on. You will learn how things are dealt with, how to make it more, just go and do that. If somebody was showing you, this is what I did, this is what I did the next thing, this is what I did the next thing, that's the sort of person you want to engage with. They might not be the fool, but they're showing a mindset that's going to get them to that point. You want to be involved in those people and those types of journey, I think. I think that's bang on, Jay.
I met someone. It was at an awards ceremony dinner a couple of years ago. I may have been on the company of a couple of people here at that event. And one of this lad was working with the event organizer there. And he approached me, it must have been about 7 or 8 months ago on LinkedIn, just message saying, "Oh, hi, how are you doing? Blah, blah, blah." I said, "Yeah, doing well." He said, "Look, I'm looking at getting into X, Y, and Z. I don't know where to start. Can you help?" And I thought, actually, no, that was brilliant. The fact that the guy was like, "How do I get like the next step?" And I said, "Look, I don't do anything like that, but let me introduce you to X, Y, and Z." And then he said, "Oh, I don't know what I can get from that situation." I said, "Just ask if you can spend time with them, if you can hang around, if you can be helpful. It may be unpaid to begin with, but if you make yourself helpful, useful, indispensable, you create yourself an opportunity." And I think there's a lot of that doesn't exist in a lot of the younger people today, where they're kind of like, well, if I'm going to work for someone, I want that £60,000 a year salary with the work car, and I want this and I want that, and the world owes me something and something like that. And this kid just came out of nowhere and was like, "Can you help?" And I was like, "Well, no, but I can introduce you to people that maybe would be able to help you, or set you off on a track where you can take the step that's required beyond that." And I thought that was brilliant.
And that's the thing about doing any kind of like placements or shadowing or spending time with people in the industry. It's not even just about like what you pick up and what you learn that does work and what doesn't work and how you do things differently. It's who do they know that you need to get to? Like, again, like that's your first step. Where can they lead you on to? Who can they put you in contact with? Building that network. We've all done it, haven't we? And certainly, because I came from a different background. When I came into this, I spent 2 years going around to bleeding networking meets every week, a few a week in London, just to go around. And I quickly worked out which ones that I liked and which ones I didn't like. But the people, working out who's at what and speaking to people and understanding what different people do and how they do it, that, yes, it takes time, but then that comes back. You reap dividends on that. Yes, it took 2 years, but people are like, "Oh yeah, I met you a couple of years ago." Yeah, it's so the people, the connections, the network is as much as the knowledge, I think.
That's true. And where do we go from here?
Back to goals.
Yeah, well, let's circle round. We took a deep dive into authenticity there.
We did.
So goals. One goal I have this year is my wife hasn't left the country since our honeymoon, and it was a lovely honeymoon. Of course, we were in we went to New Zealand for like 6 weeks. We travelled.
Wow.
So, and she hasn't left the country. I mean, we've done like a staycation or two. We went to Dorset and we've done a couple of things like that. But my goal, which is, again, it kind of fills in all of the gaps, which is I want to take the wife and baby abroad, maybe like an all-inclusive activity kind of thing. They both love that. I'd hate it, but it would be somewhere sunny. There'll be some quiet involved somewhere along the way, I'm sure, if I bury my head deep enough in the sand. And actually, it will be good for my health to get away for a week and spend some quality time for family. The wife will feel good. The baby will get some experience in another country and being in a different environment. And I'll probably come back a little bit more refreshed, and the business will improve from that as well. So it's just it's one of those goals that kind of ties in everything together if you're looking to do it for the right reasons. So yeah. Getting the wife abroad is a goal for the year.
Brilliant. Will it be a horse riding holiday, do you think?
Well, horse riding holiday. We in New Zealand we did. I'm not a horse rider. I'm the kind. My wife used to put me on the horses once they needed to be cooled down because the horses were too tired to do anything stupid, and we just walk around in circles, like warming down. And I'd just sit there going around in circles, thinking, Stetson on, But no, we've only been, I think we're together like 3 or 4 years by the time we got married. It was about 3 and a bit years. And she goes, I really want to do the Lord of the Rings trail, because a lot of it was filmed in New Zealand. Now, I thought a trail, like a dusty old trail, like a winding road. It's a straight line pretty much. You can't go too far wrong. I was wrong. We had to transverse like this river. Like I call it a river because calling it rapids was a bit too much, because actually about 100 meters down the way that we were crossing were giant boulders that were getting smashed to shit. And I thought, I don't really fancy falling off this bloody horse and getting wrecked upon these rocks. But we've done that before, and I'm all for her doing that. Like, me and the baby will go swimming in a pool, or we'll go eating somewhere nice, and she can go. I'm not up for that, but I'm 100% down for her going and doing something like that. And we were thinking somewhere like Europe, and I was thinking maybe Spain or Portugal, because they got like lots of places to like go and do something like that, where she can take herself off for an afternoon and like enjoy just going around. But yeah, unfortunately, there's no escape from horses, Ross.
Nope.
It's not going to happen. Not that I'd want her to, right? It's her passion. She should live her passion.
Well, Lisbon, Dubai, Malta are all good options.
Yeah, I think
I could do a tour de force.
Yeah. Or Birmingham. I'm sure Adam will be happy to see you guys.
Yeah, there's that famous horse riding school in Smethwick, isn't there? So I could always just pop round the corner, drop in for a cuppa at Casa del Lawrence. Yeah.
Well, they had a Dubai World Cup in March, don't they, Ross? Was that still in March?
What's the Dubai World Cup?
I think that's
horse racing at the.
Was it?
I used to go there for a few years on the trot, because my friends have race horses. So I've not been for a long time, but oh my God, that's a belting event.
Is it? Good. Okay. Right. When's that? March?
That's going in the social calendar.
That's just that's going in goals. That's where I'm going to be in March.
Lisa will need a big hat.
She's got a few. Don't worry.
I think Ross just bought Dubai World Cup Championship.com.
Not at all. Not at all.
Oh, okay.
I think
my goals, those kind of family things are good things to have, though. And one of mine for last year was being able to spend time with Alexander, because he was 5, he'll be 6 this year. And it just, the way my life was structured, I just got very, very limited amounts of time with him. In the morning, I was away before he was up. At night time, I'd be at home and he's just going to bed. And he's at school or wherever he was during the day. So we made quite big changes to do that. But now I get to pick him up at school every day at 2:00. And you get from 2:00 to 7:00 with him, or not every single day, but you get the chance to do this. So I can go to his swimming classes with him if I'm able to, or you can go and watch him do karate and take him to play football and do all these things. So although I'm an old dad, I was quite keen to make sure that you could spend time with him when he wants to spend time with you, and that's been the best thing. But again, those things have only come about because of the kind of mindset change that you think about last year, and then we made the decision to do what we've done, and then now you're getting the benefit of it. Although I'm not sure he wants me around all the time, but that's a different matter. Dad, you're embarrassing me.
Oh.
5 going on 15.
So cute. I loved that tour round that he gave of your church conversion. That was so cute. We need more Alexander videos for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure. His cars, I think he's going to do here. Every car's got carbon spoilers and all. Dad, look at this. Dad, look at this. Dad, look at this. It's his new favourite word.
Nice. Well, one of my goals for this year is basically now I moved to kind of live between Lisbon and London, and kind of Lisbon is quite a new place, so I'm just kind of building my social circles here, meeting lots of people, and so the goal for this year is like just to meet a lot of people and just kind of get myself settled here, be as comfortable as I was in London.
But I remember you talking about one of your goals being living elsewhere and living somewhere else and not being based in London anymore. So how long is that taking? 2 years from start to finish?
That's pretty much exactly 2 years. Because I remember like this was like, I mean, it was my goal for like, I don't know, 7 years and stuff, but it was always like a long-term thing. And then that Marbella retreat that we did 2 years ago. Like I thought, okay, actually maybe Spain, and then after that retreat, I basically came for like a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks maybe. I spent some time there and just kind of started to meeting people, but it was kind of like slowly was becoming a reality. And now I can move to Lisbon because of like I got to know Spain a bit, and it's like it's good for some stuff, but I think for business and life long term, it's like I wanted to check Lisbon and see how things are here, because it's just a bit more business minded. So basically, it took me 2 years to make that a reality from like starting
Great,
taking some
Rosie.
actions. It's pretty great, and it's just like expands horizons, because I think when I lived in London like all the time, you can get stuck with certain ways of doing things. And if you go to some other countries, and for example like in Portugal, people don't get up before 8 o'clock. I'm like, this is ridiculous. In London, like with like full power, like from 6 o'clock. In here, you can't get coffee pretty much before 8 9 o'clock. So it's quite a different lifestyle, different ways of doing things, different habits, and not all of them are I would take on, but some of them are just kind of make me question things and like how I do things and how
Yeah.
maybe I developed some habits that are maybe not that healthy and stuff. So it makes a good contrast.
Brilliant.
What about
So
your goals?
the other person, we haven't really had much chat around Adam's supplement today, so maybe we should touch on that. I've not actually read it, but I know Jay has.
Yeah, I've read it. I mean, there were parts of it. I mean, Adam's just brilliant for like collating information and putting it down in a sensible way, and that there's a skill there that's he's a bit like me, where he'll have a little bit of a waffle or go off on a tangent, and I love that. That's what I love, But there are very few words wasted, which is also very nice. But I think it was just talking about the effects of inflation and inflationary measures. There were talks about the interest rates and where he sees that going next year. It's kind of it's all kind of practical stuff. He did like a welcome to 2022 and a section at the front as well. But yeah, it's definitely part of the series that he's running at the moment. I think he was fairly light on COVID, but I think that was probably on purpose, because he really did go balls deep into COVID the last couple of weeks of December.
Sounds a bit rude.
No, rude. Don't be such a prude. Maybe rude, but it works either way. But no, it's kind of just more of the magnificence that you'd expect from an Adam Lawrence post. It frustratingly did get more likes and comments than my very own post, but I'm not bitter at all.
Did he mention any other kind of like Icarus or anything, or any of these types of characters? No,
he didn't know. He kept it in the realms of the real, which he's very good at. I'm prone to flights of fancy, so my writings take a rather obtuse turn to ancient mythology and other ridiculous things that people don't really care about. Helen, what's your goal for the year? Apart from the Me Mondays? You said you had 2 things on the list.
Yeah. What was my other one? My other one wasn't actually a goal.
don't over exaggerate my goals. Don't tell people I've got 2 goals and I've actually only got 1 because I've got called out.
Yeah. No, my other one was, I said that. My other one is that, like, to think more in that mindset of do something that you'll thank yourself for in 6 months' time. So it's more of like it's not a goal per se, it's how I'm going to be thinking about things. Actually, I'm thinking about it a lot at the moment as she sits here chuffing on a big like lemon muffin that I really tried to resist this morning. But yeah, I'm thinking about that a lot because of how much I've ate. Not drunk actually, but ate over Christmas. Not good. And the fact that my parents are here again. And if you remember last year when I had them here, they were here for 5 months. I put on an extraordinary amount of weight, which then took me the rest of the year to lose. And I'm doing a really good job of repeating that horrible pattern. So to nip that in the bud right now.
Nice. Well, and one of the habits we're going to keep on is the Sunday specials, right? That's the key habit to keep. And then let's see what's going to come up from this. A TV show, BBC, Grammy Awards, who knows?
We'll have to leverage Helen Chorley's fame and renown to get the rest of us ugly mugs on a screen. Maybe we'd get a radio show or something like that. But that would be
nice
cool. That
one.
would be fun.
Well, it's
Adam not just got promoted into something I saw all about property.
yeah.
You know,
He's now he's now one of the top puppies there. Is he still at UK Property Traders as well? Is he 2-timing?
I have no idea. But they're always editor was what I saw. But maybe I read that wrong.
What? So what,
I think
what
he can multitask.
I think Adam can. He would just copy paste his Sunday supplement. He could do well in the Financial Times too, and the Times, and whatever, Forbes magazine. I think we just set Adam's goal for 2022.
They stopped running that TV show, The Brain of Britain, didn't they? Remember that it was like a quiz show, and no one remembers The Brain of Britain. It used to be on like on ITV. But I say you could have gone on for something like that.
See, none of us have a clue. It's obviously only for Icarus lovers.
Clearly.
Nice one. We love the engagement today. There's been quite a lot of comments, especially on the Property Sisters YouTube channel. So from now we're on my Facebook timeline, my LinkedIn timeline, and also the YouTube channel of Property Sisters. And it's been great engaging with you guys. And also one more thing that we're doing this Wednesday is an auction trading masterclass, which is free to attend, and we'll post a link to it underneath. And we're going to be running a workshop as well about property auctions in February. We'll tell you about it when time comes. What else? Anything else to finish off with, guys?
I'd just like to say thank you very much and Happy New Year. Let's keep this going every Sunday, and I will try to be here.
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Happy New Year. It's just a pleasure to have you guys in my life. I'm a big fan. So yeah, it's just like didn't think I'd have.
You'll make us
I don't. I'll get emotional. But no. I'm very thankful because you're such good people and we get on so well. And I don't think everyone has something like that in their lives. So I'm just thankful. So yeah, thank you.
Your $5 in the post.
Nice one. Happy New Year, guys. Great to see you, and see you next week.
See you next week.